John Mortensen, who for me opened up the world initially to historical style improvisation when I started becoming curious about it and wanted to learn more. John Mortensen leads a wonderful platform online called Improv Planet, where he has wonderful teaching materials and videos and a following all over the world. I have here in my home John's book from 2020, The Pianist Guide to Historic Improvisation, which is very user-friendly. It takes you through wonderful lessons on how to improvise toccatas and preludes and all sorts of wonderful stylistically plausible pieces of music. I use this all the time in my classes at Juilliard with my students. So it's such a great honor, John, to have you with us. I just want to put in a plug because I know Oxford University Press, which published this book, is also coming out soon with your book on fugue improvisation. Mm-hmm. So John, please take it away. Welcome to the salon. Tell us about what you're excited about now with your playing and teaching in the world of music and improv, and then what we'll hear from you first.
Well, I'm excited about the number of people who are really interested in this and the connections that we're making, you and me, for example, and Gilly and Nicola and Julian. You know, there's so many people who are interested in this who are finally finding each other. As well as I look through the comments, folks who are watching today, I recognize a lot of names of people I consider friends, Improv Planet members, fellow musicians. I want to give a shout out in particular to Peter Van Toor, who has done so much important research and provided us with source material. You know, he's in there, he's digging through archives and finding these great manuscripts and helping to explain them so that we can just take them and go to the instrument and get to work. So it's very much a team effort. So Peter, greetings to you and to Improv Planet members and everyone else. Hello. So that's what I'm excited about.
Mm-hmm. And I know you've given many interviews online, for example, on the Nikhil Hogan podcast, which, you know, Nicola Canzano has always also been a guest on, and Peter Van Toor also. Hi, Peter. Peter just gave a wonderful presentation on Partimento to my classes at Juilliard.
Oh, right.
So I wanted to say, just in a quickly, for those of you who of our audience who hasn't met you, what has been your work in historical improvisation?
Yeah, well, I was just a regular pianist, and I had the same conservatory education as everybody else in America, and it's fairly similar to what is done elsewhere in the world. So, you know, your life revolves around repertoire. And two things knocked me off that track. One was I just have always loved jazz. And so a number of years ago, I just took a couple of summers and said, I'm done being a fan. I'm going to be a participant. And I'm going to really try to get my chops to the point where I can play some things in concert. And so I took a couple of summers and studied very intensely and started to make friends with jazz musicians and began to put jazz pieces on classical programs. Maybe one or two Duke Ellington tunes or something pretty modest because, you know, it's not my main thing. In doing so, I started to notice more and more that there's not really that much of a barrier between what you do when you think about jazz and what could be done in classical music, particularly once the chord progression is internalized. So if you're playing changes over, do you know what it means to miss New Orleans or Autumn Leaves or whatever else? Once you know that, you can spin out variations, which is really what jazz soloing is. And I thought, well, how is that different from a chaconne? How is that different from a passacaglia? It's not. And so I remember the first time I tried to do this, I did not tell anyone. But I was playing the Handel chaconne G major HWV 435, which follows its progression very precisely. And I thought, well, no one in the audience will know, and the police won't be there, so no one will shoot me if I just add, you know, what if I just try to improvise a variation in the middle and I don't tell them, and so I don't get in trouble or anything. And it sort of worked, and I felt confident and alive. And so then I would actually tell the audience, I'm going to make up part of this, and you can guess what's from Handel and what's from me, and we'll play a game. And then I thought, okay, from here I can see doing the entire chaconne. So that was really how it started. It was all on the stage. It was all for purposes of live performance and adventure and excitement, and the academic stuff kind of followed later.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've done incredible work since that initial experience, and
Thank you.
just spreading the word. And I'm so grateful that a friend of mine, Peter Sykes at Juilliard, said, "Hey, check out John Mortensen." And I was like, "Whoa!" I'm a straight arrow, traditionally trained classical pianist.
Right.
Myself, never thought to improvise, and I really admire the way you have gone to the sources and translated it for merely human musicians like me, who are afraid of improvisation. And there's so many wonderful ways you show your students how to get started. And once you devote yourself to it, you can really go as far as you want. And I think you've empowered a lot of people. And
thank you.
Thank you so much. My students get excited. Anyway, I don't want to make you turn red. So instead, tell us what video you've made for us.
Yeah. First. Well, I was very happy to receive this kind invitation because I know about the Catskills Foundation and I know about your work as a forte pianist. I listen to your art songs and stuff, and I'm a fan. So I was very happy to do it. But I thought, let's make some kind of connection with a historical instrument. So I'm in this room, and I have 3 instruments, actually 4, but I'm only going to use 3. I have a harpsichord over here and a modern Steinway, which is a Model C, kind of a dead model. And then this one is an Erard. I'll get as much in the frame as I can. This is an 1876 Erard that we have had some work done on. We found it in wretched condition in a more or less abandoned house in Springfield, Ohio. And we've had a lot of work done on it. And this is, as I said, 1876, but Erard built more or less the same model for decades and decades, really back into the 1840s, as far as I'm aware. We may have viewers here who know a lot more about this than I do, probably do. But anyway, I thought, well, this is very much a Romantic era, instrument. And so I started thinking about Clara Schumann, and this is a coincidence that Gilly also brought us things from Clara. So I thought, let's do some variations on a theme of Clara. And so I picked sorry for the noise there, I picked the Scherzo Opus 14 in C minor, the little A section, and thought this is a pretty exciting, romantic, Sturm und Drang kind of thing. So got to work, I think, a day or 2 last week and put this together and improvised some variations. So that's what we have.
All right.